Okay, perfect. Here we go. Okay. What is that? Okay. All right. Okay, guys. Welcome to BitBoy Crypto, the largest crypto channel in all the interwebs. My name is Ben. Every day on this channel, I'll show you how to make money in cryptocurrency. If you like money in crypto, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Sorry we were late, guys. I had a lot of technical difficulties today, but I think we have it all squared away. Joined today with me is George from CryptosRus. We're all George. George, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Ben. How are you?
Man, it's been a hectic few minutes here, but we got it all squared away. I think. Can you make sure the audio and everything's playing? Everything's great. Okay. All right, guys. So George started making waves. Okay. George, I have no idea why he's doing that. George was making waves about F2 pool. This is where this whole thing kind of started. To where you discovered some interesting stuff in the mining data that really depicted the picture of why Bitcoin had started dumping. And so we're going to talk about a lot of stuff tonight. We're going to talk about Bitcoin, and we're going to talk about where it's going. We're going to talk about also maybe Litecoin. I think we're going to discuss. But I wanted to start there and just give you a chance to explain how you kind of came up with that, and what are your overall thoughts on it?
Yeah. I think those of us that's been in the game for a while, we knew there's some kind of manipulation going on. There's random spikes up and downs, and there's random sell-offs, but we could never really pinpoint it, right? We just kind of assumed that is whale activity. This is what they do. And it wasn't until, I actually subscribed to CryptoQuant, and I'm like, there has to be more than this, right? Just guessing what's going on. And the data was right in front of us. It's just that no one paid attention to it. I mean, when you have one mining pool that is outflowing tens of thousands of Bitcoins, it's going to have some effect on the market, right? So yeah, I mean, just started putting one and one together, and it was pretty obvious that every time there's a spike in outflow, that Bitcoin dips. So yeah.
Yeah, and it was kind of interesting. I felt like when this thing first kind of blew up, and we started talking about it, that we kind of saw them stop doing it temporarily.
Right.
But then as soon as the price went back up, they started doing it again. Did you see any of that also with Ethereum? Or because what's really interesting to me is you can't dig in the mining data with Ethereum like you can with Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard people talking about how you've been mentioning that, Ethereum seems to be a little bit weaker. There was an article about how futures kind of suppressed Ethereum possibly, but I haven't found any data. At least CryptoQuant doesn't have it. And, speaking about CryptoQuant, they've been coming to rescue. They've been doing a lot of damage control for F2 pool. So I don't know what happened there. And they first
powerful people. And here's what I think. Not to cut you off there, George, but what people don't realize is it's not like F2 Pool is one giant entity and they have one address and they're dumping all this Bitcoin. There's most likely a very small number of whales that are colluding together to sell these. Who knows? Maybe to some of these big corporations that are buying Bitcoin over the counter. But it seems like there's a small group probably that's doing this. It's not like, literally F2. And here's where it gets really juicy is we don't know who these are. These could be people in the public eye. I mean, these could be big accounts on Twitter. I've heard some rumors of some people that could be involved in it, but I don't have strong enough data to actually name names at this point. Wish I did.
Yeah, it's probably not good to name names at this point. But I agree with you. F2 Pool is a pool, right? So they have a lot of clients. And some of those clients been buying and mining Bitcoin for a long time. But the strange thing is the outflows is only coming from that one pool, because you look at all the other pools and it doesn't happen. So, why, we don't know. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely something going on now. Like you said, things have been coming down ever since, like, I would say the weekend to now, like, things have really died down dramatically. So I don't know if the reporting has just changed, or that they're just out of Bitcoin, or they there's some kind of other agenda going on, right? So that's the thing. I mean, but I think I told you, and I've been telling my audience, is that whatever's going on, I don't want newcomers to feel like, okay, Bitcoin's gonna be manipulated forever. It's always go stall and it's never gonna go up. That's not the case. This is just a distraction. It's them, whoever it is behind, that's doing this. It's them versus the world, and the world is adopting and embracing Bitcoin. So this is just a small little distraction right now, and we're gonna get through it, and we have. I mean, we broke above 51,000, right? So
Yeah. So yeah, let's move on. Right now, the price of Bitcoin is going down. Is it a coincidence that we're doing the stream together? The two most hated people by F2 Pool, and
yes.
right now the price is going down. I don't know. Is it a conspiracy, George?
I don't think it's conspiracy.
Yeah.
I think at this point it's too much a coincidence to happen. Like literally, more so after you start streaming.
Yeah.
When you start, the things come down a little bit and then they quickly recover. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's a coincidence anymore.
I mean, well, I certainly know we did uncover that it wasn't just them. There was actually a trading group that was literally one specific guy who supposedly has thousands of Bitcoin that was literally counter trading me. But we cooked their goose pretty good. I had a big short on in the background and freaking pounded them. So it is what it is, And I didn't want to do it, but they leave me no choice. But let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin right now. And where do you see it? Because, you dug into a lot of data. You talk about a lot of, interesting fundamental news on your channel surrounding Bitcoin and other altcoins. But when it comes to Bitcoin, what are you seeing kind of in the short term and then in the long term?
Well, it's interesting because short term, I'm very, very, very bullish on Bitcoin, because if you just go back a few months, I think a lot of people don't remember that we were stuck under 20,000 for quite some time. And it just seemed like it was impossible barrier to break. After Bitcoin broke it, we started shooting up, literally doubling every single month. And that started in January when we went from 20 to 40,000. Yep. 40,000, we came back down to 30,000 again for about a month, and then 30,000 literally to 58,000. So almost doubling. Right. And recently we found a bottom, let's say a local bottom at 43,000. So I'm anticipating once we start making this big move up again, we could end up 80 and 90,000, and we could repeat where we come down a little bit, maybe come back down to 60,000, 65,000 and continue on. So short term, I think I'm very bullish. I think Bitcoin's will go very, very far, very fast. Long term, here's the thing. I've heard that you've said that you think that the bull cycle will end this year, and I'm in disagreement.
Oh, shots fired! Wow. Okay, you're in disagreement. Okay, let's chop that out, because I've got very strong beliefs on it. So,
okay, so why don't you start? Well, why do you think the bull cycle's going?
Yeah. So obviously we've only had 3 full cycles, and the first one, some people don't even necessarily count it because there wasn't a halving event; it was a creation leading into it. We are now on the 4th cycle. Right. So far, even though the first one wasn't technically a full cycle, it still behaved similarly to the previous 2 to now. So all 3 cycles had very similar characteristics. And I think that is driven by the supply shock of the mining. The halving event is driving that. Until Bitcoin completely reaches some kind of equilibrium, I believe we're still going to see that. I like to say it like this. The supply and demand economics of Bitcoin are built into it. And the halving is just like the price rise we get after that is a manifestation of that supply and demand economics built into Bitcoin. So I just don't think we're going to see something different. And I'll tell you this. One of my very favorite things to do is to go to Google. I hate going to Google, but this is one thing I do like doing at Google. Go there and search whatever's going on in crypto at that time, like end of bull run or Bitcoin halving, and set your search for the last cycle. So you're only looking at the news stories from 4 years ago, and whatever it is, you'll find they were all saying the same thing then. They were all saying, it's different this time. Too many people know about Bitcoin. Look at all these companies getting involved. Look at the development of the space. It's the same thing over and over again. And I fell victim to that in 2017, 2018, where I got totally wrecked because I wasn't anticipating something that a lot of the older Twitter accounts and not necessarily YouTubers, but a lot of people on Twitter were warning about this. Charlie Lee from Litecoin, he said, Satoshi Light on Twitter said in December 11th of 2017, he said, warning, if you think Litecoin's great at 300, like, you better like it at 20 because that might be where it's going. That's what we've seen. And I covered my ears. I didn't listen to it. And so my stance on it is this. Until we see something different than we've always seen before, specifically with the timeline in the cycle, I'm going to go with that. And if I lead my audience to a place where they pull out too early, I would rather them do that than pull out too late.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. This is where I'm coming from. And I totally agree with you with previous cycles. In fact, myself, I got in the cycle before 2013 when Bitcoin first hit 1,200. I got in a little bit later after it popped. In fact, I started Litecoin mining in 2014. At that point, it was $40. It dropped to about $8. I got out. I got scared out. And then I re-entered in 2017 like most people beginning of the year. Here's the thing, though. None of those previous cycles, and I agree with you, they're all driven by the halving event. There is definitely an effect to that. But none of those cycles had institutional interest that this cycle has. You never heard Goldman now promoting Bitcoin, saying that it's the best performing asset, that it's destroying everything. You never heard JP Morgan telling their clients that gold will suffer in the near future because Bitcoin is eating away from people that traditionally hold gold and buy gold. And of course, we didn't have Michael Saylor, him going 100% bullish on Bitcoin. And of course, we didn't have Tesla buying Bitcoin, Square buying Bitcoin, PayPal now offering services, right? So institutional adoption, I think, is huge. Mass Mutual is another one that comes to mind. Guggenheim is another one that comes to mind. So these guys, as much as they're hated because they're part of the Wall Street, but they have some of the strongest hands on earth.
Yeah.
When they buy something, they don't literally say, okay, I'm going to buy it end of this year, I'm going to sell it. I mean, they're buying Bitcoin basically to replace gold. So, and they've been holding gold for decades. And even though the last 11 years didn't move, they still held on to it. So I just don't see these guys selling out at the end of the year. Now, I do think that there's probably going to be some kind of correction. If we do hit $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 end of this year, Bitcoin surpasses gold in market cap, there could be a 10, 20, 30% dip, but I personally don't think there's going to be a 85% dip like the last cycle. So that's where I'm coming from. But I do think that even if we come down 30%, 40%, let's say, we restart the cycle again. And, there's a halving event in 2024, right? So it's going to start coming back up again. So, yeah.
Well, I would say for Bitcoin to get to $1 million, which, I mean, what's so funny is we've skipped over 100,000, right? Like if you go back 4 years ago to when, everybody in crypto, like it was like, could Bitcoin ever get to $100,000? And it seems so unbelievable. Even in the bear market, I was making videos saying Bitcoin would go to $100,000 in the cycle. And people are like, oh, this moon boy, this will never happen. 6-figure Bitcoin, we'll be lucky for it to hit $50,000 or whatever one day. And we see where we're at now. And so kind of the next number people are looking at is $1 million. And I think probably for us to get to $1 million, I would think we've got to see a full cycle this time and then a full cycle next time. But I do think you make some interesting points. And I want to get, your guess for where you think Bitcoin will be at the end of this cycle. So let's not forget to do that. But you make great points about what I call the Bitcoin super cycle. That is where we don't get the massive correction we've gotten before. You made great points about the corporate buying. MicroStrategy, I've actually got Michael Saylor on coming next weekend, or on Saturday and Sunday. We'll have interviews with him. But the thing is, that's only a certain percentage of the supply that's being bought up by the institutional people. And I would like to work some numbers on that and see actually if we add up all the supply of MicroStrategy and Square and Grayscale, what equivalency that is, if you combine all those, would be some interesting research. But when it comes to the bear market, I think the number I kind of have in mind is maybe we get a 60 to 65% correction instead of an 80 to 85% correction, because there will be retail hysteria that comes in, especially if we wick up to these, because nobody thinks Bitcoin's going to go to $500,000 or $600,000 and sit there. like that's going to be in a parabolic move. It's going to get up there and probably wick down. Where are you looking for Bitcoin to go in this scenario for this cycle? For the end of the year, let's just say the end of the year, because you don't think there will be necessarily an end to the cycle.
Yeah, I totally agree about the super cycle. The percentage down, that's debatable at this point, but I don't think it's going to be 85% down with this next cycle. I used to show this, and I obviously I can't right now, but I used to look at the previous cycle and look at where Bitcoin once again hit its previous high, which is 1,200 back, hit from 2013. So it hit it in 2017, and then basically Bitcoin went from $1,200 to almost 20,000, right? It was that percentage. You apply it to basically at 20,000 and you go up, that puts Bitcoin around $300,000, $400,000. So that's what I was looking at. And even if you dropped 85% from that number, you're still looking at between $40,000 to $50,000. Which is close to where we are now. So even if that did literally happen, we would still end up being right around here. But honestly, that's just, that Mark Twain had this saying, like, history doesn't repeat, but tends to rhyme. So I do think our cycle right now is rhyming very, very closely to the last cycle. The dollar amount is much higher, but now you have these big boys that's pouring in billions that didn't happen before. So if you look at the overall liquidity of the world, it's like hundreds of trillions of dollars. Just a few percentages of that going into Bitcoin is going to make a big difference, where before it was all driven by retail. And there's actually data that shows that right now what's happening with Bitcoin has nothing to do with retail. It's all driven by institutional investors, and that altcoins are going up because of retail, because most newcomers in this space, they look at Bitcoin, they're like, oh, it's at $50-something thousand. It's not gonna go up that much, or I can't afford one Bitcoin, so I should get something smaller. So that's why I think the data shows what's going on right now is definitely different than in previous cycles.
Yeah, I really like the number, the $300,000 to $400,000 number, based on the previous all-time high and how much Bitcoin surpassed it in 2017. That's a number I've looked at a lot. It's 17.8x its previous all-time high. Puts Bitcoin about $360,000 approximately for this cycle. My number is like 323 or 322. I can't even remember right now. It's one of those. Somewhere in the 320s is what I'm looking at. I think we will go a little above the stock to flow. But it definitely, a scenario exists where we do go to 400. 500K like seems a little outlandish, but I think going over 400 could definitely be possible. Let's talk about altcoins, because a lot of people right now, they're very interested, like you said, in getting those gains. No one I know asked me about Bitcoin. You know what they asked me about? They asked me about Ethereum. They asked me about Cardano. They asked me about ask me about Bitcoin Cash, because they see it and they're like, is this Bitcoin and it's cheaper? I'm talking about the novice person coming into crypto, because I get that concept of we've already missed Bitcoin. Like the largest gains in Bitcoin's history are already over. But for some of these altcoins, they could still be in store. So what are some altcoins that you're looking at right now?
Yeah, a quick note real quick. I think a lot of newcomers come in and look at Bitcoin. They don't even realize they can buy fraction,
100%.
Pieces of Bitcoin. I think that plays a lot into it. But yeah, I mean, I've covered a lot of altcoins over the years. A lot of them failed. The ones that stuck around, like Cardano, like Binance Chain, like even Chainlink, Aave, which used to be Ethlin. There's a lot of these guys. The ones that stuck around, they're like the big caps of today, right? And that's why I still advise people to look at those, because now I feel like newcomers even look at, say, Cardano or Binance Chain, and they say, oh, okay, it's already pumped up so much. It's $40 billion market cap. I need to go smaller. And I think that's the wrong way to look at it, because I think there's still a lot of room to grow even with these big caps. Yeah. There's a lot of room to grow with mid caps, and same thing with small caps. But right now, if you look at the small caps, generally they have to be a DeFi play or an NFT play for them to actually move. Yeah. Anything else, they're kind of like dead in the water right now, because people are like, newcomers are just jumping in what's hot, what pumps up like 100% day over day or something. That's the problem, right? So I think that can lead to bad things. That's why some people feel like NFTs is like ICOs of 2017. There's a lot of hype around it. There's a lot of people jumping in just to make a quick buck. But I do think I've opened my mind, because I used to be more like a Bitcoin maximalist, where I think everything just basically diverts your attention away from Bitcoin, and it causes you to lose more Bitcoin. But I came to a conclusion. You look at what's going on with Bitcoin right now and how it's disrupting the whole world and basically going to disrupt gold forever.
Yeah.
What comes after that? It can't be that
this.
just Bitcoin dominates and that's it, and nothing else from blockchain dominates, right? So DeFi is so early, decentralized finance so early, and same thing with NFTs. It might be a fad right now, but I don't think it's gonna go away. There's so many musicians, artists, creators. They're all looking into it. So I think right now is you want to look at some of these promising ones. And if they do survive, just like the altcoins survived from 2017, they're going to be the big powerhouses of the future, right? So that's how I look at it.
Well, I've been a big proponent of saying the market's going to fix itself. Like the NFT market, everybody's so worried about the NFT market. Like, oh gosh, what happens if, LeBron James put out an NFT and he puts too much and it's not rare enough and the people buy it and they lose money because it never gets a value. Welcome to the world of collectible trading. Like, that's how the entire collectibles market works. I actually used to sell football helmets, sign football helmets for a long time. For about a year and a half. It's not a super long time. But we did it on Facebook, and we had a lot of success with it. And it was very interesting watching the memorabilia market because, what something's worth today, it won't be worth tomorrow. And we kind of had a little bubble in the football helmet industry that happened. And you know what happened? The market fixed itself. Yes, people lose money in that, but if you wait around and it comes back, you can get your money back. And I think that what a lot of these celebrities, and look, we are talking to celebrities. We're having celebrities and musicians contacting us about helping them with NFTs. They're all thinking about it right now. And for some of them, it could be like maybe some kind of cash grab. But they're going to have to learn how to set those prices and get that market to where they can have longevity. Because the people that come in and they sell, 1,000 cards and then they leave, that's not going to really do them any benefit long term. Those people that actually build communities around those cards and give them utility and stuff, those people will do really well. But to think that like somehow the NFT market's going to crash crypto, or like it's a new ICO craze. I mean, really, I could argue the ICO craze is actually what fixed the crypto markets because it was getting absolutely insane. So, we need those healthy corrections and things like that.
Yeah. And people forget, despite the fact ICOs, a lot of ICOs failed. Again, the good ones survived, and they're the big dogs of today.
Yep.
I mean, Cardano went through it. A lot of these guys went through it. The ones that are loved today, they held ICOs in 2017, 2018. Yep. So it's not a bad thing. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things. I'm just going to mention one off looking at CMC right now, like Theta, for example.
Yeah.
Theta is not really an NFT play, but they're categorized as a project that's in it.
Gaming, kind of. I mean, it helps with gaming streaming, I guess. That's where it has
but they're dominant with decentralized streaming, although they don't get the traffic like YouTube or Twitch, but they have a working platform. They're doing a lot of stuff. They have gaming streaming too. They do have an NFT marketplace, but they're doing a whole lot. So they're standing on their own, and they have good partnerships. So I mean, that's a clear example of a company that survived, that's doing really well. They're categorized, there's someone in there, but that's not really what they're about. But you have a lot of companies like that. I say companies, but more like projects. Right. But that's really versatile. That could really grow into the next YouTube, right? As much as we complain about YouTube, it's the streaming platform everyone's on. Yeah. Right. But you need to have platforms to grow and develop, and eventually they could become the next YouTube. Yeah. Right. So that's a clear example a project I really like.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because right before we went on air, before I had all these technical difficulties over here, I was talking about your camera because your camera's really great. Like, your camera's really good. And you had mentioned to me, well, but by the time it gets streamed, the quality gets downgraded. That's the whole problem that Theta's trying to solve. They're trying to make enough bandwidth for anyone to be able to stream decentralized by using, nodes around the world to use computer processing power to be able to make your streams clearer. Because we're going to run into a problem where, and we're seeing it right now on our channel, and I'm sure you see it on your channel because you have a really good stream as well. And everybody, make sure if you're watching this, go subscribe to George. CryptosRus on YouTube. We should have the link down in the description. Definitely go subscribe to his channel. But the thing is that you stream. And you see the power of streaming. It builds the community. We're going to actually be moving to 2 streams a day in the next, I don't know, maybe 2 to 4 weeks. It may take longer than that. We're still trying to work out kinks, obviously. But the power of streaming is huge. And when content creators realize that time connecting with their community is how they're going to grow, and not only that, but how they're going to monetize, how they're going to set the course for the rest of their lives, possibly, they need quality streaming. So I agree. I think Theta is definitely a really good one to watch. I would also say there's one other coin that I want to talk about with you on the show, and then we can kind of just talk about whatever we want. Litecoin. We had talked about Litecoin. You say you don't think Litecoin's going to do very well. I think Litecoin, I think what you guys are seeing is George has some more dynamic opinions. Mine are more based on history. And so that's kind of my standpoint for Litecoin. So what is your pushback against Litecoin?
I don't know how nice I should be about Litecoin.
Don't go light on them.
All right, so I always label Charlie, I dump my bags on you, Lee, and he did dump, and Litecoin still has not gotten past the point when he supposedly dumped his Litecoin. Yeah. Here's the thing, I think that's a lie too. Over the years, Litecoin has survived based on Charlie's holdings of Litecoin. His foundation is run purely by his funding. Yeah. I covered this in 2018 or 2019. There was a leaked internal chat.
I remember. Yeah.
Right? Basically, it was leaked out that Charlie is a one-man show, and he even admits it as much in some of his interviews, that basically he runs marketing, he runs the foundation, he tells the foundation director what to do, what not to do, and everything is funded by him. So I like to know, if he sold all his Litecoin in 2017, how Litecoin Foundation has operated within the last 3 years. That doesn't make any sense at all. And the fact that his excuse for dumping Litecoin was it's a conflict of interest makes no sense. That's like Elon coming out and saying, I'm dumping all my Tesla shares because it's a conflict of interest that I'm holding shares of my own company.
Didn't really make a lot of sense.
Doesn't make any sense at all. It makes zero sense. No other founder. Do you hear about Vitalik saying, I'm going to dump all my ETH? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So I think I get what he was trying to do. I think back then he liked to talk about other projects. I remember he talked about, I forgot what project he talked about. And as soon as he talked about it, he tweeted about it, that project skyrocketed. It was during that craze time where basically anything you talked about, it would cause it to pump. So I get that maybe he was trying to prevent that by saying, okay, I could freely talk about other companies, projects when I don't hold any Litecoin, but man, there's just a lot of things going on. And this whole thing, this excitement about Mimblewimble, he's been talking about that since 2018. Yeah. And even in his early interviews, he said that the reason why it took so long and why he was dragging his feet is because he was afraid of regulations, that governments would crack down on privacy coins, that it would make it hard for Litecoin to survive on the exchanges. And you're seeing that where like Zcash and Dash and Monero, they're being delisted right now. Yeah. So he already mentioned that years ago, and people don't understand why it's taking so long for Mimblewimble to get activated when it could have been done 3 years ago. This is the true reason why, but of course he's not sharing that. So there's a lot of reasons why I don't like Litecoin. But even if you take all this out, I'm going to end it with this. I hate to ramble on so much about it. Here's the thing. Bitcoin, since its all-time high, has more than doubled, right? So from 20,000 to 50-something thousand. Yeah. Litecoin's all-time high is like 225. And where is it now? It's still below that.
325, right?
Or 3?
Yeah, it was over 300.
I thought it was 200 something.
The all-time high?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Let me look it up here real quick. I think it is 325, I believe. Let's see. Because I know my friend bought it at 300. That's how you remember. Let's see. This is price. Well, the daily close was 287, but
Okay.
it wicked up that day. It wicked up over 300 that day for
So
sure.
if your friend bought at 300, that was the raw deal.
Oh God, he got totally screwed. Yeah. He. Well, I mean, I probably told him to do it because I was an idiot too. So, I didn't know. I mean, look, man, we got caught, and this is why I'm so strongly about the histories, because I got swept up in it. I got swept up.
Yeah.
I convinced my grandpa to buy Bitcoin the day of the peak, like literally the highest possible point. Where it was at $20,000, like
Right.
somewhere around 19 when he bought, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. So I like to preach, the safety and thinking about the market cycles to my community. But in terms of Litecoin, you're right. It hasn't approached its all-time high yet. Hasn't even got close. Ethereum has, Cardano has, Binance Coin obviously has. It wasn't even really launched, during the bull run, fully. And when you look at all the other top coins, I mean, Bitcoin Cash, we know it had a crazy launch. So Bitcoin Cash is another one. Bitcoin Cash may never reach its all-time highs again.
No, I mean, Bitcoin Cash is a dead project.
Yeah.
I highly suggest anyone that's holding on Bitcoin Cash to get out of it. Network, you could just tell from network activity, it's at its all-time low. So there is, as much as Roger and Kim.com is saying, as it's being used everywhere, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. But another thing real quick about Litecoin is, despite the fact it didn't get back to all-time high, here's the other thing. You look at Bitcoin and Litecoin. Litecoin is a soft fork of Bitcoin. Right. It's a store value, right? I admit that. If Bitcoin is digital gold, Litecoin could be digital silver. But when digital silver doesn't appreciate as much as digital gold, why would you hold on to it? Yeah. That's the thing I don't get. People will say, oh, Litecoin is faster, its block time, settles faster and this and that. But, why are you buying a store of value, right? To store your value and hopefully make money from it. And when Litecoin doesn't make you as much money as Bitcoin, why would you hold on to that? That's ultimately the thing that I think people need to realize. So if you look at the last 11 years or last 8 years, whenever Litecoin has, was developed by Charlie, has never outperformed Bitcoin over long haul. Maybe short periods of time, maybe a few months, 6 months, but you go to years, it just trails. So why would you hold on to Litecoin? So
Well, here comes my defense. I will defend Litecoin a little bit here. Now, I will say, I haven't really considered the fact that, if Charlie Lee is funding the entire thing, then is it throughout the history of Litecoin that really he was keeping the price pumped? Like that is a thing to think about, in your scenario. I'm going to leave that to the side because I don't know that. And I'm just going to say that yes, Litecoin may not have, extremely outperformed Bitcoin, but Litecoin over its history has outperformed basically every other altcoin with consistency. Outside of course, when Ethereum debuted in 2015, of course, it shot straight to the top. But Litecoin has been in the top 10 pretty much its entire history. And so to think that now that's going to change, it just takes a little bit of a leap in my opinion. And so, if we're not talking about price manipulation going on behind the scenes to keep it up there, which is the money gets bigger, there won't be enough money in the world to keep it up there. I'm still looking for it to pump, and I'm looking at the fact it hasn't hit its all-time high as an opportunity. I'm looking at that as an opportunity that it still will have that in there, and it will still have, the gumption to get back up, to, I don't know, $700, $800, maybe $900, maybe $1,000 eventually. I think we will see that. And I think, Bitcoin, I think the silver narrative is a strong one. I agree with you. Like, I don't understand why anybody invests in silver. I don't get it. Right. But, the narrative that it is the silver is pretty strong. And I think some people will continue to buy into that. But yeah, I know the Mimblewimble thing I think is a bit overblown. I don't think they really want Mimblewimble fully on there.
I don't think so either.
Because now they open themselves up to be a privacy coin.
Right. I mean, as much as I get some people that they want their privacy, right? A part of crypto is being anonymous.
Right.
But the fact that if you're going to be buying stuff on an exchange, the regulators hate that, especially the IRS. They want to tax you on your gains. So
they do, for sure.
All these ones that have privacy features, they're going to be delisted one after another after another. Yep. So if you want to hide your transactions, great. Go with Monero, go with Dash. Go with Litecoin if it has Mimblewimble enabled. But if you want to make money, stay outside of privacy coins, in my opinion.
Well, I think I pushed that for a while, but I think what we also see is that, kind of like happens if there's a school shooting. There's a school shooting, and then all of a sudden there's all this, political talk about banning guns, and then what happens? The price of ammo goes way up. The price of, guns get harder to find. And I think you see that with almost anything that gets banned, so to speak, is when something gets banned, there's a premium on it. So there could be a sweet spot. Like there could be a sweet spot as this starts, unraveling to where you could have, possible big gains, but it's a risky play. We definitely own, and by we, I mean me and BitBoy Crypto is an entity. We own Horizon, Zcash, and those maybe, and we own Dash, but Dash technically isn't a privacy coin anymore. I think those are the only two privacy coins that we own. So, privacy coins is not one I'm super huge on, but I also love the idea of private transactions. I think you would probably agree with that. They're just troublesome.
Right. So I'm curious, what is what's your number one altcoin? What's your favorite right now?
It's boring, right? Ethereum, man. I love Ethereum. I think Ethereum is I think it is the future of the decentralized internet. I mean, I obviously love Cardano. I always am in a love triangle with Cardano and Ethereum because the Ethereum people hate the Cardano people hate the Ethereum people, and I love both. I love them all. So it just depends on what the video is, who's attacking me that day. But I think that Ethereum has problems, but I do see basically if you look at enterprise blockchains, the enterprise wants to work with Ethereum. They're not really moving over to these other platforms quite yet. So they've got a big leg up there. They have the largest pool of developers. And of course, Cardano and Charles Hoskinson make the argument that doesn't matter how many they have now, they're going to bring in the real pool of developers, or the ocean as they call it, from regular computer programming. So I get that argument too, but right now the Ethereum community is so big, it's so strong. The pool of developers is the biggest. There's the most projects that are built on it, so there's a lot of stuff in the crypto ecosystem that depends on it. And I think the real linchpin to me is that we watch the narrative of Bitcoin change from digital currency to digital gold. And I think that with Ethereum, it will always have the use case as a platform, but we're also seeing it in some ways transform into a store of value with all the institutional buying and the grayscale buying and things like that. So I know it's not super sexy, it's not a super sexy low cap pick or something like that. Mm-hmm. But if you were to ask me what a lower cap gem is that, is kind of on that same level, I would probably say, I like Elrond, and then I also like Solana. I like Solana as kind of maybe a future dark horse to the smart contract, platform race. Those are two that I look at that I like. I love smart contract platforms. I think. Yeah. The reason why I got into this is because of the decentralization of the internet. I hate censorship. I hate the data mining that goes on, that we've become the products. We're only this close from getting plugged into the matrix to fuel, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos getting off the planet and colonizing Mars. We're that close from becoming that, and so right. I think that this, decentralized social media is something I'm very passionate about. So I think all that fits, with decentralized smart contract platforms, and that's why I really like them.
I mean, here's an interesting thing. What is it? There's a show on Netflix. I think it's called Social Effect or
Social Dilemma.
It's one about the damage social media does. But there's one guy in there that said something very interesting, is that for social media, it doesn't matter who. The customer is not us. The customer is advertisers. Yep. We are the data they are selling to their customers. Mm-hmm. We are the data that they are selling to advertisers. And once I understood that, I realized how true that is. I think everyone utilizing any kind of social media, to say, hey, it's free, everyone's on it, let's do this, right? But all that data is being gathered, and they're selling that in some way or form, some extent, to these advertisers. Yeah. So I totally agree. That's why there's one project I've supported all these years is BAT, Basic Attention Token.
I love Basic Attention Token.
Right? That's what they're trying to get away from. Unfortunately, they haven't had much success. It is not a very sexy project, although the Brave browser is fantastic. Yeah. But they are trying to build some layer 2 stuff, some DEX stuff that's trying to get people to hold on their BAT tokens. But yeah, I totally agree with that. Based on Ethereum and Cardano, I know Cardano has a loyal following, and they love Charles, no matter how delayed the project is.
Yeah.
But Ethereum has a network effect, and I think you're right. The development, the pool, the developers, the teams, and all these standards. Let's not forget DeFi, and NFTs. Majority of the projects came from Ethereum, and they're utilizing these new ERC standards. Here's a gem in case you don't know about this project that I picked up. Luxo. Luxo is developed by a guy, an early developer at Ethereum. He's trying to create a new standard called ERC 725. But it's basically going to revolutionize things like user accounts and what you could do with user accounts, tie multiple tokens to a user account. He talks about the evolution of NFTs, which could be huge. So Luxo is it's a small cap gem, I think, because that guy seems like he's really brilliant. Yeah. Not a co-founder of Ethereum, but definitely one of the early developers, and he's still very active. So in case you don't know about that project.
That's one, I know I looked at that maybe back over the summer when DeFi stuff was getting real hot. I think we took a look at that one. But you know how it is, George. When you've been in here looking at as many projects we have, like you look back at a video you made like 6 or 8 months ago, you're like, what was that project? Like I remember talking about it, but it gets a little cloudy sometimes. So I'll have to maybe take a fresh look at that one for the audience. Now, last thing I just kind of wanted to discuss is when it comes to NFTs. What are some projects you're looking at that you think have a big, positive side that people may want to take a look at? I think the NFTs is we're all looking at the cards and the collectibles, but are there any projects that you feel strongly that people can make money off of? Not financial advice, of course, but in the crypto space.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of them have already blown up, so it might stir some people away. But for example, Flow is one that I've covered recently. Flow is created by Dapper Labs, who was created by the guys behind CryptoKitties. So they basically were the first people that figured out that NFTs could be hot. Flow also powers NBA Top Shots, which is enormously big right now. It's hot. Everyone's trying to get Top Shots. They have congestion problems, but they're the guys behind that. So Flow is huge. Unfortunately, they're not very accessible. You can't really purchase it in the US. It's very difficult. And they're even proud of the fact that they're not on Uniswap. They even say that right on their front page. So I think the founders realize they have a hot thing. They don't want to have it blow up like a pump and dump kind of coin. But I like Flow a lot. And also another one that has pumped up a lot recently is Chili's, which when someone asked me about it, I looked at it. I'm like, this company is going to be huge. So they're also in NFTs, but they basically create tokens for sports clubs. They're based out of Europe. They're primarily concentrating on football, non-American football clubs, but they have just opened up.
Let's call it what it is, soccer.
Yeah. I said that and people got mad.
Yeah. I'm not afraid to say soccer.
But they just opened up an office in New York where they're trying to, and they're going to start targeting, U.S. sports teams. And what's awesome is not only do they have their own exchange for that, where every single club has their own token, and you could actually trade it. I heard Binance will allow you to soon trade those individual club tokens too. Wow. So that is also a huge project. They recently blew up like crazy. But I really, really like those two plays. Like a smaller play, if I had to just mention it, Terra Virtua.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. They have some movie producers. They have legendary entertainment.
Iconomy, I think. Iconomy is how you say it. The
Economy.
Is that how you say it?
Economy.
With an I?
That's another one.
No. That's the. It's a big comic book thing. I think that works with. What is the Batman comic book that works with Terra Virtua? Maybe I'm saying the totally wrong one.
No, you're thinking about Economy. That's the one where they have license with DC. They have
Yeah.
DC and Batman, and they even signed an NFL. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh, did
that's a
they?
pretty big signing.
What is the one
But
that
they
Terra
haven't
Virtue?
really done anything with the NFL
Yeah.
just yet. But Terra Virtua is one where it's more of like a they have a few movie
Paramount,
producers
I
signed
think.
up, so I think they can do well in the future.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good one. And just going back to Chili's, the rumor is, what else is headquartered in New York? Well, basically everything, I guess. But NFL. The rumor is they're working on some NFL NFTs, and I will say I keep teasing it. I don't have the meeting yet, but supposedly there's a meeting getting set up between me and the leader of a sports league. I'll say it like that. About doing NBA Top Shot type things for their league. Can't say who it is, but it could be some pretty interesting stuff. Like we look at, everybody looks as like, oh, look at this, celebrity. They're trying to get in on this NFT craze, guys. When the NBA and the NFL and other sports leagues are trying to look at this, we got movie companies getting into it. It's the future. It seems like the weird thing is though, is it seems like all of these companies and celebrities, they're being more forward thinking with NFTs than they were with cryptocurrency in general. What do you think that says? It's just an interesting observation, I think.
Yeah, I think most people get confused on what they can do with blockchain.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them think that blockchain is just a fancy database.
Yeah.
So I don't think they really realize the money potential. I think these guys are focused on making money right away. NFTs, they can make money literally within minutes after creating an NFT. Taco Bell just recently did some of animated tacos and stuff. I mean, all these guys are jumping in because they see, hey, we can create one and sell it right away, and it's hot right now. Let's get into it. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, sports, is such an important part of American lives, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's football, baseball, basketball, hockey, even UFC. I think there's going to be a lot of potential. There's a lot of things that they can do. So, if you do get that secret meeting, I'd love to be part of it.
Yeah, sure thing. So, yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes right here. That's some big stuff going on with crypto and NFTs, and we're going to be making a whole new part of our business. I think helping some of these companies and some of these leagues and some of these celebrities and influencers with their own NFTs because they're definitely all interested in it. So, George, I think that's all we got tonight. But I do want to have you back on the channel again. Down the road. We will stick around after we go off air here. I want to talk to you for a minute about some stuff. But everybody make sure to go subscribe to George's channel, CryptosRus. His analysis and research is bar none. And what's interesting, guys, is you can have, if you listen to a lot of the stuff that he talked about in this video, in this stream here, we're using some of the same data points, but we're still coming up with different conclusions. And so that's the thing about cryptocurrency is we still don't know where things are going. So you definitely want to get both sides, on topics. You want to get multiple places where you get picks, because Chili's is one I would have said. Terra Virtua, we've talked about before. Flow has not really been on my radar until the last week. So, you get different picks from different people, and there's value all over. We're so blessed with so much education across crypto YouTube right now. Just didn't exist back in 2012, 13, 14. 2016, 17 was there a little bit. But, George, thanks for joining us. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, overall, I think us as a community, right? I mean, even though it's really fun to talk about, altcoins and promising projects, but ultimately, I think what we're doing is educating, right? And as long as we get the newcomers to chill out, right?
Yeah.
The volatility can be really, really new for some people. As long as we get people to realize this is the future, right? And all you really have to do is kick out the fear, the FUD, and stay the course. Engage and pick up Bitcoin and some of your favorite altcoins and just hodl. And ultimately, I think that's the right message, right? And I think most crypto YouTubers are about that. So,
yeah, it's definitely a good community, guys. Almost every crypto YouTuber out there that's has any size on their channel. I mean, from what I find, they're mostly all good guys and want the best for the space. So always glad to collaborate and have somebody new on the channel. Guys, if you want to see more collaborations, make sure to drop down in the comments who you want to see next on the channel. That's all.